My name is Claudia Gonzalez, and together with Deidi and Carla, we completed this behavior intervention plan. Our project focused on reducing excessive social media use through a self-management intervention. We chose this topic because social media is a part of everyday life, but when it's used excessively, it can interfere with school, productivity, and other important responsibilities. Today, I'll introduce our project, explain why this behavior is important, discuss the ethical considerations we follow, and briefly review the research that guided our intervention. Our target behavior was excessive social media use. We defined it as any non-essential use of social media apps like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, or Snapchat. Some examples include scrolling through posts, watching videos, posting content, replying to messages, or checking stories. Activities like using Canva, doing school or work research, checking emails, or watching educational videos were not included because those are productive activities. Having a clear operational definition helps make sure everyone measures the behavior the same way. We selected this behavior because excessive social media use can affect many areas of daily life. Spending too much time on social media can reduce productivity, make time management more difficult, affect academic performance, and even interfere with sleep. By reducing this behavior, people can improve their focus, become more productive, and develop healthier technological habits. For these reasons, we consider this behavior socially significant. There were several ethical considerations during this project. Participation was completely voluntary, and we only collected the information necessary for the project. To keep the data objective, we used screen time reports instead of relying on self-report. We also used the same operational definition for everyone to make sure the behavior was measured consistently. Finally, we maintained confidentiality throughout the entire project. Before creating our intervention, we reviewed 3 research studies. The first study by Stinson and Delray found that a packaged intervention, including self-management strategies, successfully reduced social media use. The second study by Megan Campos showed the self-management monitoring and delayed access to social media also reduced daily use. Finally, Cook and Sajewski demonstrated that self-monitoring through a smartphone technology can improve appropriate behaviors and increase independence. Although each study used different procedures, they all show that self-management strategies can be effective, which supported the intervention we selected for a project. The first 2 studies were especially important because they focused directly on reducing social media use. Both studies found that when participants monitor their own behavior and use strategies like reminders, delay access, or alternative activities, they spend less time on social media. These findings gave us confidence that a self-management intervention could also work in our project. The third study focused on self-monitoring in a different setting, but it reached a similar conclusion. Using a smartphone-based self-monitoring helped participants stay more engaged and improve appropriate behaviors. Even though the target behavior was different, the results further supported the effectiveness of self-management. Now that I have introduced the background and research supporting our project, I'll turn it over to Deidi, who will explain the assessment process and the intervention we implemented.
Thank you so much, Claudia. I will be introducing into the assessment. This effective assessment in excessive social media usage, we will implement a structured approach that includes measurement, assessment tools, baseline, and environment. This is essential for tracking, the measurement is essential for tracking daily social media usage accurately. We will collect data over a specific period to understand the extent of usage. The assessment tool, we will utilize Apple Screen Time tool, which provides detailed insight into how much time is spent on social media platforms. This tool is beneficial for obtaining reliable and precise data. The baseline. Establish a baseline is critical. We will be tracking for 3 consecutive days to gather an accurate representation of typical social media behavior before interventions are applied. The environment. It's important to consider the content in which social media usage occurs. We will assess usage across various environments: home, school, community, and work. This comprehensive assessment will enable us to identify patterns, triggers, and overall impact of social media usage, helping us develop effective strategies for interventions. The purpose. Our first goal is to quantify how much time individuals spent on social media each day. This measurement will provide a clear baseline for understanding usage patterns and will help us identify any problematic behaviors. Next, we will aim to analyze and identify specific behavioral patterns associated with social media usage. This includes understanding and why individuals turn to social media, which can reveal underlying triggers or motivations. Finally, we want to determine the function of excessive social media usage, understanding whether this behavior serves as a means of coping with boredom, seeking entertainment, or fulfilling social needs will guide us in developing effective intervention strategies. By achieving these objectives, we can create a comprehensive understanding of social media usage, its impacts, allowing us to address effective behaviors. The functional assessment. In this section, we'll review the results of our functional assessment, specifically usage on social media. Behavior. Identifying the behavior. Our primary behavior is concern is excessive social media usage. Understanding what triggers this behavior is the consequence. We identify several keys antecedents that often lead to increasing social media usage: free time, boredom, waiting periods, break, low task demands. Common consequences. The consequences of excessive social media can be both positive and negative. Entertainment, preferred content, immediate stimulation, social interaction. To understand these antecedents and consequences, we would help us tailor our intervention strategies to effectively manage and reduce excessive social media usage. Now let's explore the function of behavior related to excessive social media, specifically focusing on automatic positive reinforcement that drives this behavior. We identified several factors that contribute to maintaining excessive social media usage: free time or boredom, social media usage that access cells because it becomes a go-to behavior during these moments of downtime. Immediate access to preferred content. Users have instant access to content that aligns their interests, making it an applied option for engagement. Maintained, evidence of function, immediate entertainment, constant stimulation, preferred content, and similar patterns across participants. Observes in the act that these patterns or behaviors are consistent among different users, highlights a commonality in motive and engagement. Understanding these functions will guide us to develop effective strategies to address the modifying excessive social media usage. The intervention goal. We aim to reduce a social media use by 20% from the established baseline. This reduction will help participants cultivate healthier habits and minimize the negative impacts associated with excessive usage. To ensure the excessive of our interventions, we have set a clear master mastery. Participants will need to maintain at least a 20% reduction in average daily social media usage for 2 consecutive weeks. This sustained change is crucial for demonstrating that the interventions has had a lasting impact. By focusing on these goals, we can effectively track progress and make necessary adjustments to our strategies, ensure participants have moved towards healthier social media habits. Let's dive into our treatment plan, which outlines the strategies we will use to address excessive social media usage. This package consists of three main components: antecedent strategies, consequence strategies, and replacement behaviors. These strategies focus on preventing excessive usage before it occurs, turning off notifications, screen time limits, remove apps from home screen, schedule social media times, consequence strategies to reinforce a positive behavior changes, FR1 positive reinforcement, daily self-selected reward. Replacement behaviors, encouraging and alternative activities can help fill the time typically spent on social media, like homework, exercise, reading, educational podcasts, spending time with family, and organizing daily tasks. By implementing these comprehensive treatment package, we aim to create a balanced approach that encourages healthier habits and reduces excessive reliance on social media. Next, we have Carla.
So before discussing the results, I'll explain how we measure our dependent variable. Our measurement system was based on Apple Screen Time, which automatically records the amount of time participants spent on their phones. The unit of measurement was minutes per day, specifically the amount of time spent on social media applications. Data were collected using participants' daily screen time reports throughout both the baseline and intervention phases. The dependent variable in this study was the duration of social media use, and to ensure reliability, participants provided screenshots of their screen time reports. And these screenshots served as a permanent product, allowing us to verify the accuracy of the recorded data. Now let's look at the baseline results. During the baseline phase, all participants demonstrated relatively high levels of social media use. Although there were some day-to-day fluctuations, the data remained generally stable, which established a clear baseline before the intervention was introduced. As shown in the graphs, the participants consistently spent a significant amount of time on social media, and because these levels remained high without meaningful improvement, it suggested the intervention was necessary. Let's move now to the intervention results. After the intervention was implemented, we observed an overall reduction in social media use across participants. While the amount of improvement varied from each participant, they all showed lower screen time compared to their baseline levels. The graphs illustrate a downward trend after the intervention began, indicating the intervention had a positive effect in reducing social media use. Although there were still some variability in daily screen time, the overall pattern suggests meaningful improvement. These findings indicate that the intervention was effective in helping participants reduce the amount of time they spend on social media. So based on these findings, we can now move to the next slide and interpret what these results mean. Looking at the overall data, all three participants demonstrated improvement following the intervention. Claudia, for example, showed a noticeable reduction in excessive social media use with a relatively consistent trend throughout the intervention phase. Carla also demonstrated an overall reduction, although her data showed some variability. Despite these fluctuations, the general pattern still reflected improvement over baseline. Similarly, deity showed positive changes, but the responding remained more variable compared to the other participants. It's also important to acknowledge the external variables, such as school demands, work schedules, family responsibilities, and weekends, which likely influenced participants' social media use and contributed to some of the variability observed in the data. Now we can move to results. Overall, the intervention produced positive outcomes across all participants. First, the intervention successfully reduced excessive social media use as shown by the downward trend in the intervention phase. Second, all participants met the mastery criterion that was established for the study, demonstrating that they were able to consistently apply the self-management strategies. Finally, these findings suggest that the self-management procedures were effective in helping participants monitor and regulate their social media use, leading to meaningful change. As conclusion, we can move to the next slide now. And in conclusion, this study supports the effectiveness of self-management interventions for reducing excessive social media use among students. The intervention was successful in producing meaningful reduction in social media use while enabling participants to achieve the mastery criteria. However, there were still some fluctuations that appear to be related to everyday environmental factors. Because of this, future research could include additional follow-up or maintenance data to determine whether these behavior changes are sustained over long periods of time. Overall, the findings suggest that self-management is a practical and effective strategy for promoting healthier social media habits. And the next slide are the references for the 3 articles that we used, and that is everything for this